Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your friend Sergeant Acid here, and today I'm coming at you with a lore deep dive. We're going to take a look at the lore behind the current regen crisis as explained by the Astro Historian. Alright, let's go ahead and jump right into it.
What would happen if science finally defeated death itself? No matter how or where you died, you just come back. That has been the reality for humanity in the universe of Star Citizen for the last half a decade. However, something has gone wrong. Some people just aren't coming back. And the society that thought death was finished is facing a new crisis, one it might never recover from. My name is Paul Shelley, and welcome to the Astro Historian. This is a channel dedicated to exploring and explaining the lore of sci-fi and space universes and discussing their impact. Today we'll be looking at the universe of Star Citizen and the most recent in-game lore event, the Regen Crisis. To start, we need to understand what regen even is in the first place. To understand that, we have to look at its history and that of its creator, Dr. Aka Ibrahim. Famed scientist Dr. Aka Ibrahim has dedicated his career to finding a way to restore mental capacity to patients suffering from severe head injuries, brain trauma, or the ravages of degenerative diseases by obtaining detailed scans of their brain before trauma occurred. In early experiments, Dr. Ibrahim was able to repair some brain functionality, like motor functions, but any attempts to restore memories or personality were unsuccessful. While his breakthrough in brain scans helped many patients regain some functionality, if a full mental loss occurred, it seemed there was little chance of fully restoring the person until an event in 2932. It was that year, based on his reputation as a medical scan expert, Dr. Ibrahim was invited by the UAE government to study captured Vandal biogenetic scanning technology. The recovered salvage was more advanced than anything that humans had developed, and even seemed beyond much of the Vandal tech that had been previously studied. Dr. Ibrahim and his team were scarcely able to deconstruct the technology they found, or even fully understand why the Vandal were using it. It wasn't until a covert naval operation in 2946 that new military intelligence allowed Dr. Ibrahim to unlock the full potential of the technology. The end result of years of research and the creation of advanced xenomorphic materials inspired by the captured Vandal technology was the innovative Ibrahim Sphere. It allows for a complete biogenetic imprint to be made of a person. Far beyond just DNA and mental scans, the imprint captures a complete version of someone, including their memories and even their personality. The most surprising thing, however, is that the imprint does not remain static after it's made. While the process is still not fully understood, the information recorded on the sphere retains a connection to its source. If the source undergoes any major life experiences, such as a traumatic injury or even death, the imprint is permanently altered, known commonly as a traumatic response echo, or simply echo. Attempts at using imprints while the source is still alive have all resulted in failure. A leading hypothesis currently being studied is that the unique properties of the sphere may be creating a connection similar to quantum entanglement, linking the imprint to its source across interspace. Interspace is a complicated concept, as it functions as a smaller dimension parallel with our own, which, at points, touches our material dimension. These points are known as jump points, where the application of the gravity manipulating properties of quantanium is used to open a tunnel through interspace between various points in the galaxy. As such, there's probably no limit to the distance someone can be from their Ibrahim sphere to still be feeding data from themselves to their imprint. While at first the discovery of echoes left Dr. Ibrahim feeling dismayed, as he had hoped to be able to repair still living patients, a new medical path forward presented itself when the Ibrahim spheres were paired with new groundbreaking tech, developed under military contract by Bioticorp. For over 3 decades, Bioticorp has been partnering with top researchers and doctors from multiple disciplines to pioneer unique and advanced medical technologies to improve the quality of care for everyone in the empire. Expanding from software into manufacturing, Bioticorp created their own line of surgical assist robots, branded as the AutoDoc, sometime in the early 2940s. While they may not be as feature-rich as some of their competitors, the robots are known for their continuously reliable performance under less than ideal conditions. This robustness makes them a favorite for Navy corpsmen and doctors serving aboard naval hospital platforms like the Endeavour. The AutoDoc series found itself briefly in the spotlight after the recent attempted assassination of the Governor's Council in Newcastle. With most of the major Berea hospitals inaccessible in the aftermath of the attack, the injured members were rushed to a Cutlass Red that they were fortunate enough to find parked on a nearby landing pad. Equipped with Bioticorp's AutoDocs, the council members were stabilized on board as they were rushed to emergency care facilities. In a later speech, Governor Jesper Donovan specifically credited the AutoDoc with saving his life and tried, unsuccessfully, to pass a bill that would require one to be installed in every government-operated building on Berea. This technology would become critical in the research surrounding the Ibrahim sphere, as these devices proved a perfect match for imprinting, allowing someone to imprint themselves into a sphere inside a Bioticorp AutoDoc for automatic purposes. But without a means to automate someone returning to life, it was pointless, which is where Project Calliope comes in. Project Calliope, headed by Bioticorp's chief medical engineer Livia Haskell, is a full-body diagnostic and surgical system that has a variety of applications in reconstructive and cosmetic surgery. Inspired by her own personal trials after she was burned in a ship accident, Ms. Haskell and her team sought to improve the available physical alteration systems currently on the market. While people have been able to adjust their eye color or shape of their nose relatively easily for years, Calliope is intended to allow people for the first time to safely and quickly undergo massive structural bone and tissue changes that would have previously taken a team of surgeons multiple operations to perform. After a successful presentation to the Senate and High Command by Dr. Santos and Ms. Haskell, Calliope was adopted for early trials by the military, with supposedly impressive results. Starmen, who a short while ago would have had to face life with debilitating scars, can now be repaired back to normal, or if the Starman prefers, even better than before. With such positive feedback, Calliope is now beginning to make its way into civilian medical facilities for the first time. Patients who have experienced the device firsthand have described it as life-changing. Now, part of this technology is likely the bedrock for what would become known as Bioticorp bioprinters. These devices can rapidly print any part of the human form using what is known as regen serum. This advanced progenitive distillate is used as a base material from which cells, tissues, and organs can be bioprinted for use in regeneration. In 2949, the first successful regeneration of a human occurred using the rapid bioprinting technology created by Bioticorp and the imprint information stored on an Ibrahim sphere. Recognizing this breakthrough's potential, Imperator Addison authorized trillions of credits into making the technology as widely available as possible, going so far as to make the specifications for the Ibrahim sphere public so that multiple companies could produce the scanners and bioprinters needed. The regeneration process remained costly, but even the lowliest space station is equipped with an imprint-capable medical scanner, and billions of lives have been saved. Though this also meant that outlaws, pirates, and rebels have also gotten their hands on this tech, and utilize it to avoid the consequences of being caught by authorities. However, as with any technological breakthrough, there are still a lot of doubts over the tech. Religious groups have protested what they see as a soul capture device, and some economic groups have expressed worry that the sudden extension of life will have serious impacts on society, specifically around resource usage. Also, despite assurances that creating multiple imprints of the same person is technologically impossible, the fear of clone armies remains. To help with this, the government has already placed severe laws around the possibility of attempting to grow multiple versions of an individual, as such a feat would cause havoc on the notion of taxation and criminal justice. Almost instantly, several things began to change in society. People began to question if the regen person was still the same person. While they had the same memories, mannerisms, and physical look, the question remained. This played havoc with the legal system, as while the UEE decided that a regen person is the same person legally, it was just the decision of the government itself, and there were no official laws passed to indicate that. For instance, Hearst and Dynamics had to legally explain to their employees that regen wasn't a way out of their lifetime contracts. This was finally tested in an unusual way. You see, former teen actor Bo Lin's career was on the decline, especially after a messy breakup and blow-ups in his personal life. So when he got the lead role in Time Riser, the highly anticipated new vid from Amandi Moranow, Bo believed this was his ticket back to the A-list and wholly dedicated himself to preparing for it. Time Riser was based on an immersive, action-packed apocalyptic survival sim of the same name, which had become a household name in the Empire. The budget was allegedly astronomical, partially due to Murnau's insisting that the vid's massive action sequence use practical effects. Bolin bought into her vision wholeheartedly and, according to the vid's producers, took it upon himself to hire an entourage of trainers and survival specialists to prepare him for the role. In his thorough preparation, Bo died and regened several times while preparing for the role. This allegedly included him freezing to death after spending a night alone in the mountains, and falling to death, shattering almost every bone along the way while free soloing a canyon wall. When filming began, the producers claimed the injuries Bo suffered during his intense prep hampered his ability to do stunts. Multiple regens over a short period of time compounded these physical issues. The producers claimed that health and safety concerns left them no choice but to fire Bo and recast David Brundle into the role. Bo had an amazing representation, however, and had put what is known as a pay-to-play clause in his contract. This provision said that Bo was to get paid no matter whether the vid got made or not. So if the financing fell through or a storm destroyed all of the sets and production shut down instead of rebuilding, then he would get paid. Bo claimed this clause was triggered when he was replaced, effectively meaning that he would still be paid the money he was promised. Why this matters to our discussion is that the production company set about a novel way to try and wriggle out of this contract by claiming that Bo Lin, who signed the contract, wasn't the same Bo Lin alive today because he had regened multiple times during the shoot. The production's motion to have the suit thrown out explicitly stated that they were not involved in assembling Bo's training team, and they are in no way responsible for what happened to him. But Bo's lawyers have claimed that he was strongly encouraged by both the producers and Moranow to be in the best shape of his life and prepared to do his own stunts. This suit has wider implications to the legal definition of a regened person. If the producer's argument wins and a court decides that their contract was with a very specific iteration of Bo, then a floodgate of wider issues will open related to contracts. Imagine the far-reaching implications of a UEE legal system begins to consider contracts or even certain clauses only valid for someone until they regen. That would also open a Pandora's box about criminal activity as well. What happens if someone commits a crime and then ends themselves to regen and get out of the consequences of that crime, since they're technically not the same person? This has already become an issue in the criminal world as well, as a conversation that leaked onto Spectrum between an info broker named Skyer Fakius and a client named Teak discussing the consequences of ghosting yourself to get out of the hands of the law. You see, Teak had quit mid-job because of a fear of getting caught by authorities, and ended himself using regen as a means of escape. So when he calmed Skyer Fakius about another job, the info broker was notably upset about Teak not finishing the last one, but was willing to take Teak's offer to give Skyer 3 times the normal rate to get back in their good graces. Skyer told Teak about an automated widow facility in Stanton, which was for the moment abandoned and easy to take over, and then contacted a bounty hunter named Commando Khan to tell them where Teak would be, knowing that they still had a bounty on their head, specifically warning the bounty hunter that Teak liked to take the easy way out if they were cornered. So, as you can see, just about every facet of life has begun to change with the rollout of Regen across the Empire. Another example of the impact of Regen comes from the travel vlogs of the famous Old Jegger. In a recent post, they talk about how they ran into an old friend and his mentor named Iggy. Jegger was visiting Iggy, who had requested he swing by. Over a few bottles of mezcal, she revealed that she had died recently. While she was retired, she still did hauls from time to time to keep the food on the table, and a recent one went terribly, terribly wrong. She described waking up in a hospital not only knowing she had died, but feeling the after effects of it too. The two talked about her experience for hours. Between the topic and more booze, they found themselves deep into a philosophical debate about the new Regen tech and how it's going to change humanity. Jegger mentioned that it was beginning to feel like the new tech was already changing how people lived, mentioning the surreal feeling of talking to someone who had died. So, as you can see, just about every facet of life has begun to change with the rollout of Regen across the Empire. It seemed humanity was on the brink of conquering death itself, when an event revealed a serious flaw was emerging in Regen. In March of 2955, a spaceship crash caught the attention of the media, as a surprising number of the victims failed to regen for an unknown reason. A few weeks later, an explosion in New Austin killed a staggering number of people who all failed to regen. At this point, Bioticorp began to look into the failures and found a pattern of many failed regens going back quite a while. Thus, in April of 2955, the company announced that the majority of regens were now failing for an unknown reason. This sent a panic through the systems as people began to rush to hospitals and clinics where they berated the staff, many demanding their money back, as the process of generating an imprint and the insurance required to be regened is astronomically expensive to the average person. Rayari has begun to investigate alongside Bioticorp and the UEE government to figure out what is causing regen to fail. Their first revelation was that there is a rare genetic mutation in less than 10% of the population that allows for flawless regen to occur. What is that population? Why, the player base, of course. It seems the key to this regen crisis lays in the genetic code of the players themselves, who are able to regenerate with no issues. That is the heart of the current regen crisis. How it might turn out is still unknown, but it's clear that despite seemingly conquering death, the Grim Reaper has other plans for humanity. Now, this is where I'm going to take a step back and add a little theory to the mix to explain what the regen crisis is and what it means for the game going forward. Contrary to popular belief, this is not the introduction of what is commonly known by the community as Death of a Spaceman, the mechanic which will allow for player characters to die and be forced to create new characters to inherit the reputation and stuff of the last one. This is, of course, not before the effects of echoes take place. Trauma echoes, or just echoes, are the aftershocks of death. This is the term used to describe the link between the imprint and its source. When a major traumatic event occurs, such as death or even regeneration itself, the psychological impact of it can sometimes be strong enough to permanently alter the imprint. For example, if a person's legs are crushed prior to death, there's a possibility that an echo will be created that will alter the imprint so that the individual's legs are no longer functional. Echoes are the reason why patients may regenerate bearing the scars and wounds of how they died, and why only one copy of a person can exist at a time. You cannot imprint once and always return to the state you were at the point of imprint. Effectively, you cannot de-age yourself because of interspace connection with your imprint. Now, as I said earlier, regeneration itself also creates echoes, and over time, an individual's imprint will degrade and become less viable. This is why imprints cannot be used to extend life, as the process of aging itself echoes through the testing has shown that the higher the quality of medical equipment and sphere, the less severe the impact of echoes will be. This leads to the Imprint Viability Score, or IVS. This is the number used to rate the viability of an imprint to be used in regeneration. Owing to the degradation experienced from echoes, imprints eventually become so damaged they're no longer viable, and the individual will no longer be able to be regened. This is the death of the spaceman mechanic, which I mentioned earlier. Using higher quality imprints and equipment helps prolong a patient's IVS, though. There are other important terms like cycle, how many regens you've gone through, and gap, how long it's been since your last imprint, all of which factor into your IVS, which is the main point I want to get to. I have a feeling that the IVS system isn't in fiction yet. Since regen has only been around a handful of years, it is likely we haven't seen the full effect of echoes. Most people don't take it upon themselves to die as much as possible, so it may be that the Regen Crisis is actually the catalyst to the imprint viability score. This would be a narrative way of explaining both how the IVS was discovered and telling players in-game that regen is not an immortality device. Because if there is one thing that the universe teaches us, it's that nothing lasts forever. Entropy will eventually reach all of us, but without it, we wouldn't savor the moments we have now.
For more Star Citizen lore like this, please take the time to stop by and subscribe to the Astro Historian. A link to their page will be listed below. With Sergeant Acid News Network, I'm Sergeant Acid signing off. Thank you and good night.